Hi, and welcome back to part 4 of Reading Skills for Early Readers. In part 4, we are going to be sharing some ideas with parents on things you can do to make sure that your child reads like a rock star. All right, let's get going. So, as you know, before your child reads their first book, there are up to 13 different pre-reading skills that need to be strengthened and enhanced. And yes, you can actually still do these things with older children. My one urge is that you do these things in real life. Because one of my favorite quotes is, "You never want to get on a plane where the pilot learned to fly from worksheets." So the ideas I'm going to share with you are things that you can literally do in the car, in the shopping malls, just doing your day-to-day things as a parent. It doesn't need to be like a dedicated learning slot in your day. Please just make it fun and enjoyable. Right. So here we have an example of the real life that I'm talking about. If your child is doing blending, get them to write their blending in one of our favorites, jelly powder, because licking your finger afterwards really makes it far more meaningful. But also, it's activating the sensory system in the brain, and it is integrating different parts of the brain in that reading experience. So a popular one is I Spy. Now, this can be played with shapes, it can be played with colors, and it can be played with sounds. Word games are really great. So I have got a picture of a worksheet, not because I want you to do the worksheet, but it just gives you an example of what you can do. So let's say you're driving along and you want to play a word game, and you say pancakes, and your children have to hear it, synthesize the words together, and respond with pancakes. You say rainbow, they say rainbow. Alternatively, you can say pancakes and they have to go pancakes. I used to play this with clapping. So I would go grasshopper and then the kids would go grasshopper. Or I would go jelly bean and they would say jelly bean. A fun one, and it can be a little bit tricky at first, and you're going to have to concentrate, is you take a word and then you do sound substitution. Okay. So you say cone and then you swap the C for a B to make it bone. Pot, swap the P for a K to make cot. Right. Can, swap the K for a F to make fan. This is a really complex game for the brain, and it is really effective and very powerful. Then counting the syllables. You say the word banana, and they have to clap it out and tell you how many syllables there are. Banana. Watermelon. Okay? Or you can clap out the syllables, and then they have to tell you what word it makes. So they're either making or breaking. Then segmenting words into their sounds. So clapping out, how many different sounds can they hear? So, cap. I used to play games where I'd say we've got a spelling computer on our fingers and we can spell with our fingers. And then we'd take a word like, say, dog. And how many sounds? D-O-G, dog. If it was fluff, you would go fluff, knowing that this F here is actually two Fs, but you want them to hear the sounds. And can you see how that lends itself to spelling later on? Then word games with rhymes, and this can be a lot of fun. And we would have a competition in class to see how many words we could find that had the same rhyme. And then it goes on to nonsense words because nobody wants to be the one who breaks the chain. And that is fine. If children are making up nonsense words, it's absolutely fine, because what you're actually wanting them to do is to hear the commonality of that sound. Okay. Then another substitution game. So you say the word bat and then you change the T for a G, and what do you get? Bag. Okay, so here's different examples, and this one does make you think, but it is an excellent way. Here we're doing it with the end sound. Earlier we were doing it with the beginning sound. Memory games, because we want to develop that short-term memory. I packed my suitcase, a fun game for around the table. If you're having lunch together over the weekend, or if you're driving somewhere, you say, I packed my suitcase and I put in a towel. The next person says, I packed my suitcase and I put in a towel and a cap. The next person then has to say all of them and add their own until you go around the car and everyone is having to remember, and it is developing that short-term memory. These are actually things that you can play with your children that are developing their reading skills, even though there is not a book involved. Visual and memory games, because we want to strengthen their visual and their memory, their visual memory, their actual remembering of things, but also their auditory memory. Right, so here we have just literally a little muffin tray with different color beads, and the child has to copy it next to it. So one day that's going to be copying letters and copying words. This geoboards is one of the best visual and memory things that you can do with children. You can buy these games, but you can also make a pegboard with nails and a piece of wood, and you can download these cards off the internet. Then actually a worksheet, but can you see how it's very minimal? And in here, it's once again looking for detail. It's the visual discrimination and looking for detail. If you want, you can also turn this into a listening skills activity, and you can say to your child, color the cats with earmuffs blue. They have to hear, process that information, and then visually look for it. So very effective activity. Then we all remember these, and you can even get apps on your phone for it. But can you find 5 things wrong with the picture? This is developing visual memory. It is short-term memory, visual discrimination, being able to tell the difference between 2 things. Once again, taking us back to when you have to tell the difference between an S and an 8, or a B, a D, a P. All right, a fun activity. Children don't even know that they're developing their pre-reading skills. Then snap. So good old card game, snap when you get to the same number, and whoever says snap first gets the pile. Children don't know that they are developing their pre-reading skills. And then good old memory, where you put all the cards down and you have to find 2, you turn them over, you find 2 matching ones. Then we've seen these I Spy books. I know that you can buy them at our book fairs that we have, and they give the children tasks, right? So I spy a thimble, 4 birds of red, and they have to look for details in this picture to be able to find the things that they need to find. So once again, developing their memory, developing their visual discrimination, an excellent, excellent activity as a precursor to reading. Then environmental reading games. So saying to your child, oh, what does that say? And they will say McDonald's, and they will say stop, and encouraging them and saying, wow, you're reading so well. I can't believe it. That's amazing. But you can take it one step further, and you can actually teach them homophones and homonyms. So basically later on in the junior primary phase, they're going to need to know that a word can sound the same, but it can have 2 different meanings. For example, boot can be something you wear on your foot, but it can also be the boot of a car. There's also words that look the same but sound different, like live and live, but that can come a little bit later. Then the ultimate pre-reading activity you can do with your child is to read them a book. If you have challenges with them having a light on and then having to get up to turn off the light once they're asleep and then disrupting them, CBeebies Bedtime Stories is a lovely channel that you can play a video to them while the lights are off. But I also just want to say that there is a lot of pressure on parents to read children a story every single night. And please know that, like, I'm not saying that it's not important. It is important and it does matter. However, they say that this is the ultimate, but also there is the ultimate reality, right? So please don't be unkind to yourself. Please don't beat yourself up if you don't do this every night. This is one strategy of many strategies. So parents, be kind to yourself, be forgiving. We cannot do all things at all times, but just know that every little bit that we do matters and counts. So thank you for joining me on this series on reading rock stars. I hope you have found it helpful and beneficial, and that these are ideas that you can use in your home. Goodbye.